Hello everyone and welcome back to a new video on my channel. I hope y'all are doing fine. I hope y'all are doing alright. Let me just check my mic setting real quick. You are probably going to hear a background sound today. I can't really do anything about this, and I can't always wait until all of this is finished, because then I will never get to start filming. So we will just have to live with this. Hopefully you won't hear it. So today's video is going to be another episode of my ASMR podcast, which is now a podcast in which we are going to talk about philosophical questions. And I'm just going to discuss them with you, and I'm just going to give you my own opinion on these topics, and I'm just going to discuss them basically. So today we're going to talk about if a just war is possible, so if there can be a just war. So let's get started. So I'm going to talk about different perspectives again, and I'm just going to give you my own opinion about this, or just my own thoughts. I don't really have an opinion on most of these topics, but I just have some thoughts, and I'm just going to share them with you. So the first perspective is the just war theory. And the core idea of this perspective is that war is sometimes necessary if it meets ethical conditions. So as an example, self-defense, legitimate authority, or last resort. And an example argument is that defending against an unjust aggressor is morally right and protects innocent lives. And as a specific example is World War II, where the Allied forces fought against Nazi Germany to stop genocide and aggression. So I agree with this example as an example. I agree with this example because if no one fought back, and we would still have this Nazi regime until today, this would be unimaginably horrible. I don't even want to think about that. So it's great that people fight back, so to say, but at the same time this only works, I feel when someone else started the war, because otherwise of course there also can be some really messed up regimes. As an example, maybe I don't know, someone treats their citizens really badly, and then someone else wants to intervene and help the citizens. But in this case, with this kind of argument, I feel a lot of governments, a lot of countries' governments would use this argument to be we're here for the citizens, and then they're just coming for some resources of the country, and then this country is basically just coming for the resources found in this country. As an example, the United States are sometimes intervening into different geopolitical arguments and fights, and maybe talk about it's about the good cause, we want to help the civilians, but then you see a lot of resources being taken from the land, behind their backs, behind our backs. We don't really talk about it. As an example, I think you know what I mean. My English is not the best today, but I think you know what I mean. I think when it comes to self-defense, this is a good argument. Also here, it can be used in a lot of different ways. Some people might say this is just self-defense, and then end up killing a lot of civilians, end up killing a lot of people. I think you also know what I'm talking about. Another current example, there can be someone who's like a leader of a country, could also be we are just I'm just going to protect my people, which are a small group in this country, or also a group in this country, and they are not being treated right by the current government, so I need to come in and protect them, or something like this, when it's actually just about land. I think you know what I mean. The just war theory is a theory which can be used quite easily, I feel because you will always find an argument in war situations, because everything is really complex, and it's probably always going to be possible to find some kind of excuse for your military actions. And so there you really need to evaluate this, as someone watching this, and actually think about it, is this just, or is this just an excuse? So yeah, I hope you know what I mean. But it's good, like in general, if you are defending yourself against an aggressor, you know, if a country gets invaded, you need to protect it. But then you need to think about which kind of means you are using, or like which kind of expenses of weapons you're using, or which kind of expenses of deaths you are like deliberately, how do you say this? So like when we're talking about self-defense, this is legitimate, like in theory, in my opinion. But like then you always need to pay attention to the scale of your revenge, so to say, like what kind of actions you are pursuing then, like, because it can easily happen that you are just like fighting back, I don't know, 1,000 times stronger as an example, or you're just using this as an argument to now, I don't know, commit war crimes, or just be like, yeah, now I'm just going to take some land, or I'm going to do this and that. And so, yeah, I really don't want to be too political in this video. That's why I'm not really giving specific examples now. And I'm also not, like we already talked about a couple of things where I had much more knowledge about. Like today's topic is not really a topic where I have a lot of knowledge about. So yeah, the next perspective is pacifism. This holds the core idea that war is always wrong and violence leads to suffering and should be avoided at all costs. And yeah, a common argument is that even wars fought for good reasons cause unnecessary destruction and loss of life. Yeah, this is also, I think this is probably my perspective, my opinion. But like again, you have to think about, if you are never using violence, it can easily happen that someone who uses violence and who uses weapons can just come and take everything from you, and you are just going to be there, and you know, like they could also kill you. Even if you're saying, okay, I'm not using violence, if someone comes and uses violence on you and you're not using violence back, they will just basically kill you. This is like the biggest counter side of this kind of way of thought, I feel like. And yeah, an example is Gandhi's nonviolent resistance in the 1920s to until the 1940s. Instead of waging war, Gandhi led peaceful protests against British rule in India. Yeah. The thing is, in these kind of situations, like you can come really far with nonviolent protests, and whenever there's no reason to use weapons, you should also not use them. And I just recently thought about this, like, again, I don't want to give a specific example because I don't want to get too political in this video or on this channel in general. Like, I just recently thought about how much of an impact actually the population of countries do have, because if in fact, let's say there's one country who is fighting in a war as an example, or like fighting an unjust war, or is just killing a lot of civilians as an example, or is just, or like in general, if there's a government which is just not a great government. And I feel like if you actually had a lot of people within the population, like I think this really is true, like of course not just a few people, but I feel like whenever there is really almost everyone against the government, there will eventually be some change. I feel like if almost everyone knows about the government not being correct, you know, not being a good government, so to say, and being really corrupt and treating their civilians really badly, all these kind of things, and like a lot of people in the population know about this and they also do something against this, I feel like then eventually, like I can also think immediately of a counter example, but like I really hope eventually these kind of governments won't last. I don't think they will last forever, because on the long run you're not going to be able to support this, I feel like. But like, yeah, you should only really fight with weapons or like physically if it's like self-defense, I feel like. Also, when I looked this up, there was one point of view which stated that killing is always wrong, like even if it's self-defense. And the thing is, if we're talking about a war situation, it's not direct self-defense. If I'm just walking on the street and someone attacks me and I eventually end up killing this person because otherwise this person might kill me, like then it's just direct self-defense. Like what else could I have done in order to escape? I needed to kill that person basically. Like there can be these kind of situations where it really is like this, but like in war, you have another country attacking your country with weapons, or like in other means, I don't know, but like most of the time with weapons. And then like now I think about it, like this is another question: is whatever you can use against someone to harm this person always a weapon, even if it's not like a classical weapon? Like it's actually always a weapon. Like also propaganda is some sort of weapon, as an example. So yeah, like whenever someone attacks your country and then you are using self-defense, it's not like if you then end up killing a lot of people, it's not the same just situation as if I'm being attacked by someone and we're having a fight and it's either me or this person and one of us is going to die, and so I end up killing this person. Then it's like self-defense. But like if someone attacks a country and then some people die and then soldiers come and kill other people, it's never really the direct revenge, so to say. It's always still people who are not really related to one another at all. They are just part of the same group, of the same country, of the same population, the same group of people basically, because they live on this or that piece of land, or because they're just identifying with this or that group of people, or they're also forced to be in this or that group, in this like living in this or that country. Like also you can't really change where you were born, and you also can't control where you're growing up. Like your parents make a lot of decisions for you, or like other people, like adults. So as a child you can't really be like, I'm going to live here or there, and you can't make decisions. And then like just imagine, like just think about how many children always die in war, and so it's not the same kind of revenge or the same kind of self-defense if it's in a war situation. I think this is really clear. But yeah, like, so I'm really for this kind of idea that as long as you don't need to fight with violence or like with physical activity like killing and such things, you don't need to do it. Especially nowadays, there are so many different ways in which war can happen, actually. Like also, if we think about the Cold War time, okay, now this is going to be the next point, so I'm going to read it. So the next point is realism, I think. This is what it's, realism. Realism states that war is an inevitable part of human nature and politics, and morality doesn't apply. An example is that nations act based on power and self-interest and not based on ethics. And an example is the Cold War, where the US and the Soviet Union engaged in conflicts, proxy wars, driven by power struggles rather than moral concerns. But like the Cold War, I'm not a war expert, I'm not a history expert, but like from my knowledge, the Cold War was just like no weapons used, basically. It was just like everybody was talking about, yeah, I'm getting more weapons, and then the other person responds, I'm getting more weapons. Then the next person comes, yeah, I'm getting nuclear weapons. The other person comes, yeah, I'm getting nuclear weapons too, and I have more than you, and then and so on. And this is kind of what I feel like is also sometimes happening now, right now. Like not exactly like this, but like you can live in critical times and there's no direct war, but still yet it sometimes feels like war. Like as an example, when there used to be peaceful times between countries and then all of a sudden it's not anymore, and there are some tensions and it's not really any kind of discourse, like it's still some kind of, it's not really war, but it's still not ideal, it's not like, it's also not really peace. And so yeah, but like it's an inevitable part of human nature. I think this is true. It's an inevitable part of human nature. Like also animals fight each other, and we are animals, so like we also fight each other. And a part of politics, yeah, this is the thing. Like politics, if like the human, how do you say this? Like humans act as if they're like really superior compared to other animals, and we have politics and we have diplomacy and we can actually talk about everything. And then at the same time, you sometimes, until today, you have this kind of war where you're coming in with troops, where you're coming in with soldiers walking on the ground. And like, this is really not at all progressive. This is really recessive, in my opinion, or like just standing on one point, not like really moving with time. Because nowadays, actually, how nowadays, like a war would look like nowadays, in my opinion, is that you are coming with drones, as an example. Like, you don't need anyone to fly a plane, and especially not with people walking on the ground like soldiers, just with like one gun. And like, this is just the Middle Ages. Like, this is just actually not really what I think a war should look like nowadays. It always depends on the resources of the country. But like, when we're talking about really powerful countries with a lot of weapons, with a lot of military expenses, like with a lot of military equipment also, like when you have a lot of resources, a lot of knowledge on how to build all kinds of weapons, then you could also build weapons which are automated a bit. Like, you don't need someone to fly the plane, or to drive the plane. How do you say this? Like, you don't need an actual pilot sitting in a plane, but you can fly with drones, as an example. Like, with the planes, maybe you can still have some people in there, but like, you don't really need thousands of people walking on the ground and with a gun and shooting others. Like, this is just not really what like a nation nowadays which has much more resources should do, in my opinion. Also, like, you can have wars, like, this is what I predict. You can have wars with technology. So like, just cutting off the Wi-Fi and like the internet connection in one country, and I don't know, just spreading hate within the country maybe, and then you have some kind of civil war. Like, this is how I think the future might look like in certain countries. Also, like where I live in Germany, you see this. Like, Germany actually has, I don't know how many different political parties, and still yet among younger generations, you have more and more people who are either, or like in this election, like it's been a month or so, like right now when I'm filming this video, I don't know when I will upload it, but it's been around about a month now since the election. And you have, like, among younger voters, you have either people who voted for the far right or who voted for the far left. And like, you also have younger people who voted for something in between, for some other parties. But like, you really see how the younger the people are, the more difference there is, like the more of a clash you have between them. And like, we're becoming more and more like the United States, I feel like sometimes, because like with only two sides you can be on, even if there are multiple political parties, it's still often, like, also online on social media, this discourse is often like, okay, you are either on the right or you're on the left. And with some topics, you just can't be like this. It can't be like this if someone, as an example, is like saying, I believe in God, but at the same time, I am pro-choice, as an example. Like, this can totally work. This can totally go hand in hand, because everybody has a different degree on how they believe, how directly they are taking their beliefs from a script, as an example, or how they live out their faith, as an example. So you totally can have this kind of mixture. It might not be the most popular one, but it can happen. And so in this situation, whenever someone might say, okay, I believe in God, there might be people from the left who will already be like, okay, you are so typically on the right, you are maybe far right, or I don't know. And at the same time, if you go to, or like if someone was maybe totally politically on the right, but has one kind of belief which is more on the left side, whenever they would bring this up, people on the right are just like, or would be like, yeah, you don't belong to us, like, go back to the other people. And, but it doesn't work like this. Like, there are a lot of people who are in the middle, somewhere in the middle. You can be more on the left, you can be more on the right, but you can totally be somewhere in the middle. It's not like there's just either or. Like, we are not the United States in Germany, and also in other countries, it's not just like two parties. You have multiple parties, you can vote for different things. And so, like, especially in Germany, I really value this. I have some criticism about this country, but like, I really value that we have different political parties, because you will never totally agree with one party. This is impossible, I feel like. Especially if you are always continuing to learn and you are always questioning things and you are building your own opinion, you are thinking about yourself. You will never be all right with everything that is being said by one single party, as an example. But like, at the same time, you have multiple options and you cannot only decide between two parties. And I think this is really great, because this is really the foundation for civil war, like also in the United States. Like, this is just, if you have only two kind of opinions and you have to choose one, and this is the thing, like, you can vote for two different parties, it's all right, but like, this situation that even among daily life talks, like in daily life situations, when there's a conversation in a cafe, as an example, and or like just among some strangers, you know, or like among co-workers, as an example, and you just have a talk and you need to pick a side. You need to choose a side, because you can't stand in the middle, or you can't be like, okay, I'm voting for this person or for that person, but it's not like I agree with everything. It's not like this is my strongest opinion. Like, it's more and more the situation that you need to pick a side, you need to choose a side, and then you are like this person, you know, you must agree with everything, like with this certain politician or with this certain political party. And this is just, yeah, this is the foundation for civil war, like, honestly. But like, yeah. So let's just move on. The next point of view is militarism. This has the core idea that war can be beneficial by strengthening nations, spreading ideologies, or advancing progress. Another point of view which can easily be taken advantage of, in my opinion. So as an example, conflict can unite a country, drive innovation, and remove weak or corrupt systems. As an example, the Napoleonic Wars. Napoleon used war to expand French influence and spread revolutionary ideas across Europe. Again, this is what you look at nowadays and you're like, this is great, because like also in Germany, a lot of history, like we had one history teacher, this person was also like, yeah, this is great, because then we get revolutionary ideas and we get the basic human rights because of this, like basic human rights declarations, like which can't be changed, you know, which are always working. And at the same time, no one really pays attention. Like at the same time, even with these basic human rights, you have them in the constitution of Germany as an example, and they are still being violated sometimes, you know, maybe just slightly, but like especially in everyday life, and you have instances and you can't really defend yourself because you lack evidence against a person, like all these kind of things. It's also happening in Germany. But like at the end of the day, there also died a lot of people in these wars, in these Napoleonic Wars. And today you can be happy about it, but like at the end of the day, it was still a war, and it was still like, it still involved killing people, like on both sides or on multiple sides, people were killing others. And so it was still a war, still people died. And looking back, you can be like, yeah, thanks to our ancestors that they did that, or that they lost, that they won, that they did whatever. But nowadays, if we were in the situation, we would be like a lot of people would be like, I don't want war. Like there are definitely cases where people would be like, oh, back then our ancestors fought in this or that war, and now we have these rights and this territory and so much more territory and so much more rights, and I don't know, now we have peace because after the war they had some agreements, all these kind of things. So I think looking back, you are maybe sometimes grateful for wars. Sometimes you will also be like, why? So as an example, in Germany with the Second World War, why? Like this only brought suffering. But there are also wars probably where you will just be like, yeah, or where the next generations will be like, yeah, this is great that this happened. Yeah, this always depends on the point of view, I guess. Today I have a problem with talking like with peace. Sometimes I'm just like the point of view. Like, I don't know, I'm tired. Okay, so the next perspective is pragmatism. And this says that the morality of war depends on its long-term consequences. If it leads to a better world, it may be justified. Okay, this is something what I roundabout talked about. So if war prevents greater suffering in the long run, it may be the lesser evil. As an example, the US Civil War. though destructive, the war ultimately led to the abolition of slavery in the US. Yeah, like this is an example, like also, like I think in these cases it's maybe also necessary if you start a war. At the same time, if you use this point of view nowadays, like you can always, like people can use it to say, yeah, as an example, like I already said this in the beginning of the video, a leader of a country could say, yeah, there are some of my people who think, or like who are in solidarity with my country, and they are speaking my language, our language, and they are suffering in this other country, and now I have to invade the country to help them. And can use this as an excuse and can tell this to their people, like this guy can then tell this on the television to the people of the country and be like, yeah, we must save our people there in this other country, when it's actually just about land. And this is, something that, like, I think you always need to consider the whole picture. You can never be like especially with today's question, I think this is almost always the case, like also in my other videos, I never really had that one opinion. But like with today's question, there really is no right or wrong, I feel like, because you can always end up like people who always use propaganda, people who always look for excuses to start a war or like to continue a war, to respond to an aggression in a really aggressive way, overly aggressive way, and like you can always find some excuses. So yeah, I really feel like at the end of the day, it's better to negotiate as much as you can, like with your voice, and not use violence. At the same time, sometimes it might be the only way, because if someone won't talk and will only use violence, what do you want to do? You can't really talk to a wall, you know, then you might need military actions, because what else can you do? And then in these kind of situations, I feel like the population of these tyranny governments are asked to actually question what is going on there. Like in these cases, you really need to talk to the people where these questionable leaders come from, because then, like, if the population of these kind of people, like on a huge scale, don't support them, you might make some progress, but like also not always. I can immediately think of one country where a lot of people in the population don't like the government and want the government gone, and also even celebrate if one of the leaders, one of the government people die, because they're too stupid to know that actually you should fly a plane and not a helicopter. Because like if a helicopter has some kind of problem, they are just like doom, dropping, you know. That this is why we fly planes, because they are like still gliding, you know. But yeah, like this is like it's not always enough. I feel like if you have a lot of resistance, sometimes the government just has too much power, and especially if a tyranny government is supported by another government, maybe, or like by other governments, you know, like what can you do? It's just, and in these kind of situations, it's just, you can, like the only thing you can do, like also like as a civilian, is like to keep an open mind and to always watch out for what happens in other countries, or also like what happens in your country. And then you can only try to, use your voice maybe for others that can't use their voice, or that might go to jail if they use their voice. Or you can, as an example, try to, like this is maybe the reason why I'm even thinking about making videos in German now. Like you can try to bring people together again. Like of course I could do this if I made my videos, but like you can just try, you know. Like I'm not saying I am making any change or whatsoever. I'm not thinking that. But like even if you just, I don't know, bring a few more people together, you know. Like let's say you're part of two groups. You are in two kinds of groups. Do you say this? You're part of two communities. This is what I wanted to say. So let's say you are part of two communities, which are maybe a bit contradictory also. Then you can try to, like in this kind of position, as an example, you can try to bring them together a bit and to, talk about topics where these people might not be on the same page, but like you can try to get them a bit closer to each other. As an example, you can just try to, like within your own country, prevent some sort of civil war, Like I think there's never one person, like of course there are people who have a lot of power, but like as a civilian, it's not like, I'm not like, oh, I'm making a video and there's world peace, or like there's no tensions anymore in Germany, as an example. Like this is not realistic, this is not what I'm saying. I'm just saying you can maybe try to bring some people a bit closer which weren't so close before, or to just give them a different point of view, as an example, to just talk about things that are normally not being, like, that people normally don't talk about, or just, give them some different ideas about certain questions, as an example. I hope you know what I mean. But like as a small person, there's not much you can do to prevent war. And you can only try to do what is in your power and in your reach to maybe do a small percentage of preventing war. So my final opinion on this, as I already said, like I think I am the most of a pacifist, probably, because I'm just like, whenever you don't need physical fighting, you shouldn't do it. But I do think there are certain people or certain governments that you can't talk to. There are people where it just seems like you can't really discuss with them, or you have two different countries which are totally the opposite, and it seems like they will never get an agreement, they will never agree on something. Like then sometimes war, like physical war, might be the only solution. I don't know, like I really think in a lot of examples war is not necessary, like especially also things which are happening right now, nowadays. Two prominent examples, I don't think that war is necessary in these situations, like physical war. So this is just like a lot of things, like a lot of these positions can also be used. I think this is like the difference, because pacifism is the only point of view where you can't just be like, okay, actually this makes sense, because you don't really want to kill people in this point of view. With all of the other situations, you are saying, war is possible, or it can be done under certain circumstances. And while you say that, under certain circumstances, there is a lot of room for all of this. There will always be some kind of argument which can be used in a propaganda way, which is actually not really an argument, but you can be like, and this is why we are fighting back with so much artillery now, like with so many weapons, and this is why we're fighting back so hard, or this is why we are starting this war now, this is why we are going to always fight back, this is why we are going to use these and that, like this and that weapon, this is why we're doing this and that. Like all of these reasons make sense if they are used in a more humane way, but like it's never really just. I feel like war is never really just. It's always killing. Like just would be if you had the leaders of countries doing a boxing fight, just fighting each other with their bare hands. This would be just, and the winner wins. Also, this wouldn't really be just, because then, like, this also wouldn't be just. But it would be less killings, like it would be less civilians who die, but like, at the end of the day, I don't think there is a just war, because like also with the self-defense, like self-defense is, in my opinion, the only reason to kill someone. And it's not possible. Like if an airstrike hits a place and kills a certain amount of people, and if then the government of these people who were killed comes and uses another rocket against the other people, the group of people where the attackers came from, like where, like of the government which attacked, and then you kill some people, it's not like the killers of the people who were killed first are now killed. You kill like innocent people, like some people were killed by a person which is not necessarily going to die if you fight back. Then you will just kill other people, then you will just kill innocent people who never killed anyone and the killer is still running around. And so, yeah, this is my opinion on this, I feel like. But like, I do understand sometimes it's kind of necessary, because otherwise we would not live in the world we live in today, which is on some things are definitely great. Some things, like, I don't want to miss certain things. Like, I don't want to go without certain accomplishments, certain establishments. But at the same time, a lot of wars in the past were also not necessary, or like some things which are established today are also questionable. Some things, like some points of view, some borders are also questionable around the world in different regions. And so this is really something you need to look at every single situation separately. You can't really be like, this is always like this and this is how you should do it. This is a really complex topic. You should always evaluate every single situation. And yeah, this is my opinion on this. All right, so I hope you liked the video. And if you did, I would really appreciate it if you would give it a like. And if you didn't like it, feel free to let me know why in the comments. And also, yeah, let me know your own thoughts on this topic if you want to. And yeah, if you have discussions in the comments, please always stay respectful, like especially to others commenting there. And yeah, with that being said, thanks for watching. Thanks for watching until now if you're still watching. Of course, I hope you've already fallen asleep by now. And see you in the next video. All right. Bye.